Thanks very much, Paul. And what a servant of God. I love to meet the authentic, genuine article, don't you? I had a bagel the other day at Brooklyn Bagels in Tampa. Anybody ever had a bagel there? They explained to me that it's a real bagel. They make it from scratch and they boil it on site, and that's what I've never had a real bagel. But I took it to a guy that used to work on Wall Street, and he said, that's a real bagel. I've been eating these steamed frozen bagels, and I thought they were the real thing. But the authentic, genuine thing, have you ever met a man or woman of God? And you know when it's the authentic, genuine thing. And so my spirit resonates with Paul. Paul's an old-time CBMCer. He's a CBMCer. That's Christian Businessmen's Connection. It's a ministry that's been around since the Great Depression. Several years ago, I got involved. I got saved in 1994. I heard the gospel and responded. I was in college. And I had a very wise elder who baptized me and gave me a great piece of advice. He knew that I was in the business program at the University of Tampa. And he said, you need to find a Christian businessman to disciple you. I said, great, where do I look for one? He said, I don't know. Pray about it and see if the Lord will lead you. I think he will. So I did. I prayed about it, and I started asking people, do you know any Christian businessmen? Do you know any Christian businessmen? And all of a sudden, a couple of the same people said the same guy's name, Bill Martin. And Bill was the local area lay leader for a ministry called CBMC that I'm now the full-time area director for. And Bill discipled me. He brought me through a program called Operation Timothy and helped me to grow in my faith. And so I'm kind of grateful that Bill took me under his wing and discipled me. After a while, I wanted to ask Bill something. I said, Bill, why are you being so nice to me? I'm 24 years old. I'm going through college. I graduated from college. The guy's taking me fishing all the time, spending time with me. He's in full-time business. He's a businessman. He's taking me fishing. He's getting me job interviews. He's just going way out of his way to spend time with me and get me around successful people in Tampa. And he said, Dan, I'll tell you why I'm doing it, because other men did it for me. And I hope one day you'll do it for other men. So he taught me how to spiritually reproduce as he was discipling me. So years later, I started understanding that I have the ability to teach other men how to spiritually reproduce. For all the fathers in the room, we know how to physically reproduce, right? For the fathers and mothers. But do you know how to spiritually reproduce? That's a redundant question to a crowd like this. Of course you do. But most men don't. And I speak to a lot of men's groups. I have a very dramatic testimony. Everybody can have a copy of it if you'd like. I'm going to leave it over on the table over there. It's called Selfish to Servant. My specialty is selfish, greedy businessmen. Seems to be my calling. Because I was one. Most men don't know how to spiritually reproduce. That's evidenced by the many churches that I get to share this testimony at and get to speak at in the men's group when I ask them what the Great Commission means. Typically to a men's group, if you put them on the spot and they're honest, they say that the Great Commission to go and make disciples, that's introducing somebody to pastor. Or introducing them, maybe inviting them to church. And I ask them, how's that going for you? Well, I asked somebody one time and they wouldn't come. So they were defeated. Well, that's where we want to get engaged with guys. When I met Joe Gibbs, he's engaged. He wants to give back. He made the money, he has the success, but he understands a key concept that we all understand. You can't take it with you, can you? Right. All that earthly wealth is going to go to somebody else, and you know that. But there's heavenly wealth. When I started to key in on that concept, and I was chasing the dollars, and then, I got saved, and I was going to church, and my pastor was telling me, look, one day as a son of the Most High God, as a believer, you're going to give an account of your stewardship to the Lord, to the things that he wanted you to do. And I didn't take that very seriously, and I got in a lot of trouble as a result. And if you read through this, you'll know the story why. But for today's, the scope of today, I think we've got a real opportunity here. When I was talking with Paul, we know that there's a problem with the businessmen and the senior pastors in the churches connecting. And if it's not that way at your church, it's that way at the majority of churches. There's this, I don't want to call it us versus them, but there's not a connection. There's not a connection. And there could be, because to Paul's bull and heifer illustration, There are a lot of, there's a book called Shepherding Stallions. And we miss these guys because, we go to the businessmen, the key businessmen, they want to take something over. They don't want to just be servants. Well, a lot of them are waiting to be challenged by their pastor. They're waiting to be engaged by their pastor. And there was a time in my life when I was waiting for that, and I missed the opportunity, and I got in a terrible situation where I was on my deathbed. And guess what I was remembering when I was at one time in my life laying there dying? I was remembering what my pastor said, that one day I'm going to give an account of my life to the Lord. And I just had never considered, well, what is it that I'm going to give an account of? I mean, from a stewardship perspective, all the things that he's been giving me to invest with others. But mainly it was with people and how I was reaching those people. So we know the Great Commission is to go and make disciples. Do you know what the Great Omission is? My wife, bless her heart, teaches at a Christian school. She taught me this. The Great Commission is to go and make a disciple. And evangelism is inherent in that. The Great Omission is when you lead somebody to Christ and then you don't disciple them. That's the Great Omission. And that really stuck with me because a lot of times I see people that do a great event and somebody may hear the gospel and may respond to it, but then they don't follow up with them. They don't teach them how to grow and then how to reproduce. And that's the opportunity that we've had. When me and Paul were talking about what could we do practically speaking to reconnect pastor to his key guys, to his key businessmen, let's get something that they can do together. Let's get an outreach where it's going to be about them and challenging them to go into their sphere of influence, to pray about somebody that needs to hear about Christ, somebody that's unconvinced, challenge them to go out and invite that person, pray about it, and let the Lord get that person working through this guy's life, fill a table with those people, and watch what the Lord does. Watch what the Lord does. I've hosted several of these Game Plan for Life's events, and I've seen hundreds of salvations occur. And then somebody needs to engage that person that's made a decision for Christ, get him into a discipleship program to firm up the local church. What better way to build up the men's program than that way through the local church? It's non-confrontational. Like to my earlier point, when you invite a business guy to church, hey, you want to go to church this Sunday? Oh, I'm going golfing. He gets all his affirmation going golfing with his buddies or going hunting. Going to church, there's this perception. There's a lot of people out there that are unchurched. In other words, they're coming up in families with parents like mine that didn't go to church. So their affirmation is coming from different places. Guys, I think we have an opportunity here to build out a spiritual reproduction model that will go generation to generation, third, fourth, fifth generations. I have my Timothys. I'm down into the fifth generation of young men that are discipling guys under the guy that led me to the Lord and discipled me. I see it all the time, but it's not the norm. But it should be, and it can be. And so that's the opportunity, and it's a big opportunity. And I just want to say that, for me, I was a business coach, and I sold an executive coaching business to come on staff with CMBC as a missionary a couple of years ago. Big leap of faith. When I was a business coach, I learned something. I've studied for many, many years. I tried to get to the root of what motivates people to do something or to change. And I learned this little exercise one time, that the majority of people know what happens in a business, the product or service that's offered. Let's say you work at a company. The majority of the people know what the product or service is. A subset, a smaller portion of those people know how the product is produced, and then an even smaller subset know why the product or service goes to market. Typically, all the whats and the hows are working for the whys. Does that make sense? So getting to the why became the key as a business coach to unlock the potential of somebody to do something. Why should I participate? Why? For me, I want to participate in the Great Commission because it's a clear commandment from my Lord who saved me for all of eternity. And it pleases him when I'm obedient. It pleases him when I'm stepping out in faith. And it pleases him when he empowers me to carry out his plans. So that's the opportunity, helping our business guys at your churches understand why they should participate in things. That's kind of on you, but challenge them. That's my challenge to you, pastors. Challenge your business guys. They're waiting. They're waiting to be challenged. So participate in the Game Plan of Life. I think you'll be blessed. Thank you.